Hey, what's up you guys? I'm going to talk to you today about the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. I just finished Clockwork Princess last night. I kind of binge read all three books back to back and I really enjoyed them. Did I enjoy them as much as the Mortal Instruments? You have to stick to the end to find out. For the sake of time, I am going to skip a lot of portions of like the plot that didn't really mean that much to me or like leave an impression. And I'm also going to talk about like mostly just Will, Jem and Tessa because there's a lot of characters which I really loved. I loved all the characters in this book and there's a lot of plot, but obviously I don't want this video to go on for 3 hours long. So I'm just going to talk about the stuff that really mattered to me and made an impression on me. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and I will be definitely reading much more Cassandra Clare books in the future, so make sure you do subscribe. And yeah, let's just get started to talk about Clockwork Angel. So obviously I should have said this entire video will contain spoilers, so if you don't want any spoilers, leave now. Like the whole video will be spoilers, so that's your warning. I have to also admit that Jem didn't leave an impression on me in this first book at all. I didn't take any notes on him, so I will not be mentioning him at all in this book. He was just kind of a side character to me, and I just really focused on Will and Tessa. Will really at first felt like a Jace clone to me, Jace being the main love interest from Mortal Instruments. They really felt like the same character to me, but obviously with like different hair colours. But throughout the series, as the series progressed and Will's character evolved, I could separate the two more easily, and I do now definitely see Will as his own character. And for Tessa, there is some similarities with her and Clary, but I thought that she was really cool and her powers were cool, and I liked that she was not mundane, but she also wasn't a shadow hunter. I felt it was a very unique viewpoint and, something different to mix things up. The setting, obviously being Victorian London, I really enjoyed that. Although I do think the setting sometimes wasn't completely believable, but we're told that a lot of it is because of the Shadowhunter customs. So for example, they just call each other their first names. They're not very proper, things like that. Kind of took you out of the setting, I thought. But overall, I did really enjoy it taking part in the past, place in the past. I thought it was unique and like a different spin on the story rather than like another modern take such as the Mortal Instruments. If you've seen my video on the Mortal Instruments series, you know that the thing I love is like the big plot twist. So obviously the start of this book was really cool with, or interesting with Tessa being kidnapped and then Will saving her and stuff like that. But the big scene that stood out to me from the first half of this book was the vampire party. I really enjoyed this. I liked all the vampire characters and the way that they all had mundanes that kind of tagged along with them and were like in love with them, kind of infatuated with them. I'm not 100% sure. And the fact that the mundanes would just be there and the vampires would just like cut their neck and drink their blood, like, oh, it was so creepy, but I really liked it. And then we get the whole scene, so this is what I'll talk about with the plot twist. I love a good plot twist, and although I did see this one coming, it wasn't like a surprise, it was just like a good, like, I don't know, it got me in the mood for the book. And that was when we found out that the vampire's prisoner that they were all about to kill and drink from was Tessa's brother, Nate. So I just thought that this whole scene was so good. I loved all the fighting that happened. I think Cassandra Clare writes fight scenes really well and kiss scenes really well, and we will get to the kiss scenes, don't worry, there is a lot of kiss scenes to talk about. But I think her fight scenes are really good and I enjoyed this one. However, the only reason that De Quincey, the like head vampire, got away was because Will was being like big-headed and arrogant and showing off when he should have just killed him. There was no reason for De Quincey to really get away at this point, but I digress. I just thought that whole scene was a good kind of introduction to the book. Then we have the Will and Tessa kiss, which takes place in like the attic, maybe. It is when Tessa is going to give Will his medicine, and oh my god, it was too much for my heart, it was too much for my head, oh my god. Cassandra Clare knows how to write a kiss scene, like, I don't even know how to put it into words, they are just too good. And then obviously Will is super rude to her and like just pushes her away, which he always has to ruin the mood. We will talk about that soon enough, don't worry. Nate, Tessa's brother, is still in the institute at this point, and I didn't like him, to be honest, although I did have to say that I think it was interesting that he had a gambling addiction, because obviously that was not really his fault. So I was trying to make myself like Nate. I was like, he has these addictions, it's not his own fault, like he has a lot of trauma, obviously, from everything he's been through, but then it turns out that he is a villain, so obviously I'm glad that I was not a fan, considering he turned out to be a traitor. But anyway, when Mortmain comes, so everyone's trying to like work out what to do, like where to go. I've skipped over so much of the plot, I know, but Mortmain comes over and he says that he knows where Mrs. Dark is and that she is behind like the automatons that are attacking and stuff like that. And I knew straight away, I was like, he is up to something, because we haven't had the reveal yet that he is the actual Magister, like the bad guy. But I just knew straight away, like as soon as he came over and he's like, oh, I know where they are, I was like, nah, something's up here. And then obviously I was right again. Then we have the scene where the automatons burst into the Institute and kill Agatha, and that was actually quite a scary scene to me. And I thought if they ever adapt this into like, you know, a movie or a TV show, which I know there is a Shadowhunters TV show, I think it's only the present day ones, isn't it? I don't know, I've not watched it. I was like, they could really do like a good horror twist on this book and like give it a really creepy setting and a really creepy like atmosphere, because the automatons up to this point I was like, they're kind of, I don't know, not that exciting. But then they burst into the Institute and they kill Agatha and everyone's fighting, and I was actually like, okay, I can see why they're a threat now, like they're kind of scary. I found out obviously that Mortmain is the Magister, which I was expecting. Well, I actually wasn't expecting it when they first meet him and have like the talk with him, like Charlotte and everyone, or Charlotte and Henry. But when he came and like said like, oh, I know where you should go, that's when I was like, okay, I don't trust you. We get to, you know, kind of the end of the book where Mortmain is trying to get Tessa, and I loved when she changed into the girl who was bleeding so that she was covered in blood and Mortmain thought that she had killed herself. I thought that was such a good trick. It obviously didn't last that long. He found out that she was actually alive pretty soon after that. But when that happened, I was like, that is a good trick. I don't know. I was just really impressed. I was like, that is good thinking. Like, I would try and put myself in her shoes and put myself in that situation. And there was also obviously like foreshadowing for the fact she could do that earlier when she done it with Mrs. Dark. So I just liked that all. I thought it was quite cool. The kiss with Will at the end was very romantic, very touching in my heart. It was intense, as they always are. But then he had to ruin it, and I was so angry. I was in my group chat with my like friends, obviously like the hosts from Trick or Treat-a-thon and some others, and I was like texting. I was like, oh my god, Will, I hate Will so much, because I was like, he ruined such a good scene. Like, it was so romantic, and then Tessa was like, basically like putting herself like, I love you, not I love you, but you know. And then he was like, so I'll use you for what I want, but that's about it. And I was so angry. I was like, how can he do this? And obviously we find out that there's reasons for this later on, but at this stage I was so annoyed. I was like, well, how can you do this to Tessa, and how can you do this to me, more importantly? One of the things I liked the most about Clockwork Prince was just finding out a lot more about the world. I love world building. I talk about it in all my kind of review videos, but I just love world building. I think it's really interesting. It's one of my favourite parts of a book. So finding out more about like Shadowhunter culture, for example, about the laws of marrying mundanes and the Parabatai. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. I looked up a video of how to pronounce it. I think that's right. So like what Jem and Will are, Parabatai, I hope. And then also the history of the York Institute and the collection of treasures that Starkweather, I think that's his name, collected from all of the fairies and demons and stuff that he had killed. I was like shocked at that part, by the way. That was a lot to take in. No wonder Tessa fainted. Like, that was a lot. We also find out in this book about Will's curse. So Will, when he was a child, was cursed so that anyone that loves him will die, or so we think. At this stage, we do think. And I was so sad about that. My heart was actually breaking. I was like, that is such a sad curse. Like, he obviously explained in the book, if it was someone, the one that he loved would die, he could kind of force himself not to love them, but he can't really help someone else loving him because that's not in his own control. So that's why he has to push everyone away and be like nasty to everyone. That's why he had to be nasty to Tessa after they kissed. And I was like, oh my god, I was so sad. It was such a sad moment. Well, obviously it turns out it's not true, but anyway. The craziest chapter ever out of all the books, in my opinion, well, actually no, because the incest stuff is crazier. But one of my favourite chapters out of this trilogy anyway was chapter 9, I think it is, when we have Will using drugs, Jem getting angry for the first time, and then Jem and Tessa having the hottest kiss of all time. Like, if you thought the kiss between Will and Tessa in the first book was good, oh my god. The Jem and Tessa kiss was the first time I was like, I didn't even notice Jem's existence in the series up until this point, and then that happened, and oh my god. I had to put the book down, I had to take a break. That was too much. It was actually crazy. It was just so much. And then we go into like another big scene, which is where Sophie knocks out Jessamine because Jessamine has been sneaking out to meet Nate. So I hadn't even mentioned this, I've skipped over so much plot, but Nate obviously is Mark Main's like second hand, and he went back to Mark Main and has been with him, and Jessamine, who is meant to be a shadow hunter, has been going and secretly meeting him. So Sophie knocks her out, and I love Sophie. I think that she is such a cool character, and I'm so glad that at the end of book 3 she was risen up to become a shadow hunter, because she definitely deserved it. She deserves the world. I am a Sophie stan. Like, I think she was actually like one of my top 3 characters. I think it was like, honestly, Will, Sophie, and then Charlotte maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I'm a Sophie stan. And then we find out that Jessamine has been a spy this whole time, which is so annoying. Although I do have to say, my initial thoughts about Jessamine were never good. I thought that she was kind of the Rosalie of the series, as in like Rosalie from Twilight, although obviously Rosalie is not a traitor, but she's kind of just like not really there. She doesn't want anything to do with Bella. Anyway, let's talk about Twilight. Jessamine reminded me of her, so when Jessamine turned out to be a traitor, I was surprised, but also it did make sense. Will and Tessa go to the party. Tessa is in disguise, and then they drink a little magic potion and start making out on the balcony, and this is another amazing kiss. Not as good as the Jem one. The Jem one is like up here, and then the Will ones were down here, honestly, but it was a good one. Again, I was like, how stupid can you be to be kissing like this in the house when you're meant to be in disguise? Her disguise has failed, so she's just back to looking like Tessa. Her brother's about. I was so sure that Nate was going to catch them, but it turned out that it was Magnus that caught them, luckily. Like, if Nate caught them in that situation, that would just be, I don't even know what would have happened. But I was just thinking, I was like, how could you be so stupid? Then obviously they drank the potion, but oh, anyway. Will starts being so much nicer, and that's when I was like, I don't know if I'm Team Jem or if I'm Team Will, because I do prefer Will. However, Jem had that kiss scene that had made me put the book down, so I kept going between the two, and then we find out that Will isn't actually cursed, and oh my god, that was a shock, okay? I should have, it's one of those ones that once it happens, you're like, okay, I should have predicted that, but I didn't. And then right as he is about to tell Tessa that he's in love with her and that he doesn't have a curse, oh my god, Jem proposes right at the wrong moment. And then Will announces his love to Tessa too late, and she has to turn him away, and it was actually heartbreaking. My heart was so broken. I was like, I thought I was Team Jem maybe, but then once this actually happened, I was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm Team Will. And I was so sad. I was like, how could this, I was like, how can this even be resolved? Like, I couldn't work out. I was like, okay, so maybe if Jem dies and then Will and Tessa can be together, which, I mean, kind of happens, but oh, I was so heartbroken at the end of this book. So in Clockwork Princess, I decided, I was like, okay, I want Jem and Tessa to get married, and then Jem to die, and then Tessa and Will to get together, because then Jem can die happy, and everyone else can then be happy, even though Jem's dead. And I mean, I kinda got that right. They didn't actually get married, but I was still kinda right in the end. The main two issues of this book are that Jem is dying faster, and that the console wants Charlotte out because she's a woman, and that was so frustrating because like I said, Charlotte is maybe my third favourite character in this trilogy, even though I haven't spoken about it in this video, because she's always, I don't know, I feel like the main thing about these books is the romance storyline, and then the rest of the storyline kind of floats around the romance storyline. So I haven't had much reason to talk about it, but I did really like Charlotte. We get a letter from Mark Main saying that he has got all of the drugs that Jem needs to survive, and Tessa stupidly is like, I will go, like, because he wants Tessa in exchange for the drugs, and Tessa's like, okay, I will go. But I agree with everyone else, like, that was so stupid, because Tessa would then just be trapped, and Jem was still going to die anyway. It just means that instead of dying in like 3 days, he would die in like 3 months. Like, it was a lost cause, basically. Like, Jem was a lost cause. We then have a scene where Jessamine is coming back from the Silent City, no, the City of Bones, whatever it's called, and the automatons attack, and that took me by surprise. I was not expecting that. Like, even like once it happened, looking back, I was like, no, I did not expect that at all. It was very intense, big intense battle scene. I really do like how Cassandra Clare writes her fight scenes. And then Jessamine dies, which I actually thought was quite sad, because I felt like she could have had a redemption arc, and I suppose in a way she kind of does, because she kind of does tell them the truth of where Mortmain is hiding. Like, Will's sister works it out, but I don't know, I felt like she maybe deserved a little bit more of a redemption arc. I don't know, she did die and it was sad. Tessa is kidnapped and Jem almost dies by going to save her. He was running off after her, and we are sure at this point that this is him on his way out, and then he's on his deathbed, and Magnus and Will are talking, and they're discussing the fact that Will is in love with Tessa, and then Jem isn't actually like in a coma or asleep or anything. He's like, what is this about you loving Tessa? And oh, that was too much for my. I was like, this is too awkward. I could imagine it so clearly. I was like, that is just the most awkward thing in the world, like that situation. But it does turn out quite well, because Jem is understanding, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna die, you and Tessa can look after each other and whatever else. And I don't know, I quite liked it. There were some sad scenes with, you know, Jem and Will saying goodbye, because he's basically sure that Jem is going to die, and Jem telling Charlotte to stop looking for a cure for his illness. I thought that was also quite sad. He's like, you know what, just let me die. And all of that was quite sad to me. I don't know, I do like Jem. Actually, no, I did. At this stage, I did like Jem. Later on, but at this stage, I did really like Jem, so it was sad that he died. When he does die, Will's physical reaction to it was quite scary. Obviously, they are parabatai, and they're like, their souls are basically tied together. So he has like a very intense physical reaction to Jem's death, which was quite sad. Again, this whole section was quite sad about the part of the book. We also find out around this time that Tessa is half Shadowhunter. I don't know if I was really, like, they kept saying, Nate, I'm pretty sure, said that she was half Shadowhunter, but hadn't ever been confirmed. So we did get like final confirmation on it at this scene, but it wasn't like a surprise or anything, because they basically already told us like 2 books ago. But I thought it was cool. Like I said at the start, it was quite cool that she is like half Shadowhunter, half, is it demon? Yeah, she's like half Warlock, kind of. No one even knows what she is. I don't know what she is either. Will gets into Tessa's prison and is also trapped. Oh my god. We need to talk about this scene. She asks him, they're having like a kind of heart-to-heart. They're like, okay, Mortmain's going to find us in the morning. He's going to kill us both. And they were like, well, Tessa is like, can we have one final kiss? And the kiss? Oh my god. Still not as good as the Gem one, I don't think. However, it progresses past the Gem one, if you know what I'm saying. And I thought it was good. I liked it. I mean, for the time period, that would have been scandalous, but it was good. It was a good scene. We then have a scene where all of the other Shadowhunters are debating whether or not to go after Charlotte and her Institute crew, and the Consul is still trying to like take Charlotte out of power and just basically leave her to die and leave all of them to die. And I was so angry. I was like, what is your issue? Like, he basically just doesn't like her because she's a woman, and it was driving me insane. And then he gets what's coming to him because he gets chopped in half by an automaton that attacks the debate hall they're in. I don't know what it's called, but that took me by surprise. He was like mid-sentence, and I was like, and I actually was writing my notes. I was like, I hate the Consul. And then I looked back at the page, and then he got cut in half, and I was like, okay, problem solved. During the big fight to save Tessa, we find out that Jem never actually died and has now become a silent brother, and I did not like this for reasons that, okay, at this stage I was like, I don't mind it, but later on, we'll get to it. So Tessa turns into a big angel and uses her morphing power to just turn into this huge big angel and crush Mortmain which I thought was pretty funny, to be honest, because for a big overarching villain of the story, he died very easily. It was kind of anticlimactic. I liked the big battle, but then his actual death was kind of just like, she literally just crushed him. So, I mean, I actually thought it was kind of funny. I don't know if that was the intention, but I don't know. I think it was a bit of a letdown. I feel like Mark Main in general was just not that great of a villain compared to Valentine from the Mortal Instruments trilogy, but anyway, we then have Jem explaining to Tessa why he became a silent brother, and I didn't like it. Basically, in exchange for loving forever, he is giving up like seeing all the people he loves. He's giving up like his music, which is like a big part of his character, and I just felt like it took away so much of what makes Jem Jem, and I didn't understand why he would even want to do that. But then him and Tessa have the arrangement where they will meet like once a year for an hour, and I guess that's kind of nice, but I don't know, I just felt like if it was me, I would have just killed him, and if I was Jem, I probably would have just died. Like, not getting to see all the ones you love, not getting to like pursue your biggest passion, which is music, like, I don't know, I don't think it seems worth it, to be honest. The epilogue was very sad, with Will dying and Jem coming to play violin. Even though he's not supposed to, he comes and plays it like one last time for Will, and that almost like brought tears to my eyes. That scene was like touching, heartbreaking, every aching. I really liked it, and at that stage I was like, okay, maybe I do like Jem. But then we go into the future, and it turns out that Tess, because of her like warlock or warlock side of her, she can live forever, which I hadn't really considered, and I thought it was interesting, and I'm assuming that she is now going to be in the second half of the Mortal Instruments series. But then we have Jem suddenly being back to normal, and they've found a cure, and he has gave up being a silent brother, and he just looks like himself, the way he did like back when they were originally met, like when he died. And I didn't like it, to be honest. I thought it was too perfect. I thought it was just like wrapping everything up in like too much of a little bow. And I just thought it was too perfect, to be honest. It was just not believable. And I think it would have been much nicer ending, in my opinion, if they met on the bridge like they do every year, and they're just having like kind of reflective talk, and then it's like they leaves it off until another year. I don't know. I just felt like it was just too perfect. That was my thing. It was like too unbelievably perfect that Jem would be sorted and be back to the way he was like 120 years ago. So to answer the title of the video, is the Infernal Devices better than the Mortal Instruments? I personally don't think so. I think the Mortal Instruments had a much better blend of an overarching storyline and the romantic storyline, whereas the Infernal Devices, like I've already said, is mostly the romantic storyline with like Mark Main floating around the edge. He never really feels like a true proper character or villain or threat, whereas Valentine did feel like a very true threat. And I just thought that there was much more drama in the Mortal Instruments as well. We have the whole incest storyline, obviously. We have just a lot more, there is a lot of drama between obviously Will and Tessa and Jem, but I just thought the drama with Clare and Jace was like so much more interesting. I did really love this trilogy, and I do like all these characters, and I do think these characters in a lot of ways were more fleshed out and more interesting. But if I'm comparing the books like completely just on like the storylines more than the characters, I think the storyline in the Mortal Instruments was much more engaging and had a much more important threat, or not important, but much more of a threat. And I thought Valentine was a much more compelling and interesting villain than Mark Main was. So I did really enjoy the series, don't get me wrong, but I do still think I prefer the Mortal Instruments. There was so many plot twists in that. Like, there was plot twists in this one as well, but a lot of them are a little bit predictable, or for example with the gem at the end, like just unbelievable. So I prefer the Mortal Instruments. I'm going to now, not straight away, but I'm going to now read books 4, 5 and 6 of Mortal Instruments. So if you want to see me talk about those, press subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Let me know your thoughts on the Infernal devices down below. I know everyone has a lot of thoughts on this series. It seems to be much more popular in general than the Mortal Instruments. I feel like a lot of people look down on the Mortal Instruments but really enjoy this. So let me know your thoughts down below. If you are still watching this point in the video, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video.